Hi, it's Trevor from GHD-repair.co.uk. Today we're going to be looking at the mains cable replacement on the GHD Gold model. The actual model number itself is S7N261, and you will find that just on that label there, just at the top, but it will also say GHD Gold on the opposite side to the switch. Relatively new model, but fortunately uses the same mains cable that the GHD Platinum uses and some of the curling tongs and other items. This had been classed as a non-repairable previously, but we have had a few models in, a few of these in that we've had a closer look at, and we've determined that it can be repaired, and we have a number of these in stock now. So cable can be purchased currently. We are offering the repair service, as I say. We may offer spares as well, but really this model is for engineers only to repair. I would not recommend the general public to try and repair this, other than the pretty straightforward mains cable replacement, which we will move on to without further delay. So we've got chrome plated hinge covers, which you will just slide a thin blade of some sort under and lift off. You will see a very small screw, unusual for GHDs. They usually have a much bigger screw. The holes here are of different depths, and you will see different depths of tag on the cap. Make sure you get that the right way around, otherwise you'll force it in and break off one of them. On the other side we have the same arrangement, but on this side, unlike the old GHD models that had a metal pivot pin, this has been redesigned and now uses a plastic one. I'm not aware of any issues with it breaking. It has been designed that way for cost purposes, I would suggest. Keep your finger firmly over it and go back to the other side and undo this screw. Try to avoid pushing the pin out as you're doing this, as it will then start spinning around. At that point you can pop a screwdriver in and just slide that plastic pivot pin out. Just be careful when you pull this apart. You will see the way that this metal hinge spring has been fitted. I would suggest leaving it in if you can. The nylon bush is quite loose in there and will just simply fall out. So what we're going to do is just assume for you that it has fallen out, and then we'll show you later on how to put it back in. That is the way that goes in. Tucks into both arms. We'll deal with that in a minute. At this stage, if you've ever repaired GHDs previously to this, you'll be thinking, well, okay, where are the screws that now hold this all together? Well, they are hidden underneath this arm, and the arm is in a couple of pieces, and this cover, this full-length cover, actually pops off. And the way to remove it is just to grab that same little metal spudger, and right at the tips you'll see a bit of a gap, and you can just get in here without damaging anything and just gently lever this cover off like so. Actually, I'm just going to turn it around for you. So you've just gone in at the end there, and you can just run this gently down and release all of the plastic clips that run the full length. You can see a lot of dirt accumulated on this one. We would just wipe that off at this stage. That's the only problem with these multiple piece arms. You can get dirt into the joins. Okay, so at this point you will see there's two screws here and there's two at the end. On the other arm, if we took that off, we've just got the two screws. These two screws hold the cable cover on, which is fortunately a separate piece, so it makes these really easy to repair. So no need to remove those screws, and unless you were working on the insides of the irons like we do here. So you simply undo these two screws, and you'll find this. I'm holding the cable cover in place at the moment with my fingers because I don't want it just to fall off, but if you turn them back over, this whole cover just lifts off like so. At that point you can see the cable socket, perfectly reliable. These clear plastic sockets, the same as used on the GHD Mark V. Sorry, it's the same type of socket, it's a slightly different size, you can't interchange the parts, but this type of socket is very reliable. It's obviously the cable that's going to get the damage, and you just lift that socket up and pull the cable out. We sell new cables with moulded plug on the shop, and we would advise using some fresh CG60 grease. Again, you can buy this on the shop. This is a high voltage grease specifically for this type of high voltage contact. We would just put some onto the metal parts of the end of the cable and reinsert like so. That clicks into place. You will find grooves in the arm and corresponding mouldings on the end of the cable, so you really can't get this in the wrong way round, and if you have put it in the wrong way round, or not in the correct slots, you won't get this cover back on. See how easy that goes back on. So holding it in place, we will pop the hinge, the cable cover back in place. Do not over tighten any of these screws, just gently nip them up, and that is done. Right, now to reassemble this, we are going to take that end and tuck it into the top of, this is really hard to show. I think so that end, tuck it into that cable and up, and you will find then if you press it gently it will line up with the hole. It's pushing against the cables, and at this point you should be able to put your nylon washer back in like that. A little wiggle around so it comes out through the other side, which it won't do for me. There we go. So that's what you're left with now. I'm just going to spin this over. So that's what you're left with, that arrangement, and then you tuck that down into the hole there and squeeze them together. You can feel the spring tension there, and if you've done that correctly you'll see that the holes line up. If they don't, just let it go and redo it till the holes line up. Grab your plastic pivot pin and pop it through and click it into place so it is flush, and then spin these over, and whilst you're holding the plastic pivot pin, just pop the screw back in. Again, no need to over tighten these. The thread is quite coarse, so you do have to press quite hard from the back as you're doing this up. Just test for operation. You might want to remove the dirt that has accumulated on these, and after doing that you can grab the cover and simply click it back in place, and that is it, and you will have a new cable fitted. As I said earlier, make sure you are lining up the shorter tab with the slightly less deep hole, and it clicks into the shorter one first and then the larger one clicks in place. So find the short tab, a shallower hole, and click the longer one in place, and you are done. Check the operation, plug them in, you'll hear the bleep and the light flash, and then if you press and hold you will get the light flashing on and off like that, and eventually they will come up to temperature, and you'll be done. Now at this point in the workshop here we will be pat testing the irons. Obviously you've fitted a brand new cable, so there isn't going to be an issue, but we do pat test everything here, and that is a cable change on the GHD Gold, the S7N261.